please only send a guest request if you did vote Trump, y'all. Oh, is Dean going to tell people to join this way?
Go, 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 go. Everybody go over to Parker's live stream. That is at Parker Needs a Job on TikTok. Click over on his account right now in audio. So everyone, wait, Parker, say you're at real quick.
1.6.
1.6. Okay. At Parker Needs a Job. I'm going to go ahead and end my stream in 10 seconds, everyone. Click over on Parker's account right now before I do, or just search it up at Parker Needs a Job. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone go to Parker's. All right, see you, man.
See ya. Thanks to Dean, everyone. I really appreciate it, Dean. Thank you, man. W Dean. I really appreciate that. We're going to start getting some people up here in a second. Only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. We are just looking for some debates. We're going to start getting some people up here in a second. Please, everyone, only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. What's up, everyone joining in? What's up, y'all? How's everyone doing? We're going to start getting some people up here. Yo, Sid, thank you so much for the Galaxy. Thank you so much, Sid. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Hello? Appreciate the fast crown. Thank you so much, Real. All right, let's go to the next person. Only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. We are just looking for some debates, everyone. How old are you?
And I'm proud to be an American. Oh, thank you.
Sid, thank you so much for the fireworks. Thank you so much, Sid. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sid. We're going to start getting some people up here. Only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
Hi, hello.
Did you vote Trump?
No, I'm sorry, but it was
Only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Prince, thank you for the gold medal. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
25.
Did you vote Trump?
Yes.
Why so?
Primarily because of his stance on immigration and the economy.
Okay. So, what specifically on immigration? What on the economy?
I think securing the border. I'm going to steel man what I anticipate you're going to say, which is that the border is not an issue. Let's look at Canada. There's virtually no border with Canada, but the border with Mexico.
No, I would rather just respond to you. Is that fine?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think the border with Mexico is a huge issue in terms of crime. So
did you know that immigrants and undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit violent crime than natural-born U.S. citizens? Less likely to commit property crime?
Referring
less
to
likely to commit drug crime?
I'm not referring to immigrants. I'm just
You're just referring to what?
Crime at the border.
Yeah. Why would the border produce crime?
Well, I think studies may suggest that a lot of drug trafficking and sex trafficking takes place.
Mostly U.S. citizens.
Oh, well, I didn't know that, but yeah, I think the prevailing narrative is that crime occurs at a higher rate at the border as a result of an immigration system that is
there you go. So if immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than natural-born U.S. citizens,
no. So I'm not
referring to it would actually have a reduction in the average rate of crime.
Well, I'm not referring to immigrants. I'm referring to the border and the crime that occurs.
Yeah, and what you just said, how the border caused, right, crime was through immigration. Okay, and if immigrants specifically, right, produce less crime on average than natural-born U.S. citizens, then it wouldn't be the case that there would be a higher rate of crime.
So you are referring to immigrants that I'm presumably that immigrated legally in the United States, even if you
reference both.
Okay, well, I digress. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to crime specifically at the border, not immigration as a whole or immigrants as a whole.
Yeah, but you said what caused crime at the border was immigration, right?
No,
What's the cause of crime then?
I would say criminals that
Uh,
are like incentivized by an immigration system that's unchecked.
so immigration.
I mean, I'm hesitant to say immigration because the inference is like, oh, this person doesn't like immigrants, which is not the case. That's why I'm hesitant to say immigrants.
Yeah, but
I
if you're
understand
saying
what
that immigration is the cause of the crime, if we reference people who are immigrating to the country, whether it be through documented or undocumented means, they're still less likely to commit crime than natural-born U.S. citizens. So if we look at the crime rate as taken to a percentage of the population, it would
Mm.
actually reduce the crime rate.
Well, it would reduce the crime rate to what? What do you mean?
Yeah, to be more or less similar to what the crime rate is of the undocumented or documented immigrant,
Okay, again,
because it's pulling towards
okay, so
right
you're
their
focusing
average.
on crime rates between immigrants and citizens?
Could give you an example, right? Let's say that the average number in a classroom that someone picks is 4.5, okay? Right?
Okay.
And then there is a whole class of people coming in that their average number is 2. Now, given that both classes are in the same room, would the average be lower than 4.5?
Well, sure.
Yes, exactly. So
But
in the same way,
it's not a
if
vacuum.
undocumented and documented immigrants commit lower rates of crime than natural-born U.S. citizens, they're going to pull the mean, the average of the class or of the population
Mhm.
to be lower or more similar to the average rate of the immigrant coming in.
I understand where you're coming from, but I disagree.
You can't
Because
disagree with math.
no, it's not I'm not disagreeing with math. I
Yes,
just
yes, you are.
okay, well, I disagree with your opinion that I'm disagreeing with math, but
Okay, what do you disagree with?
I think your argument is focusing on comparing immigrants to citizens. That's not the focus of my argument. My argument is focusing on a policy that addresses the issue at our border.
Like the rate
And
of crime, right?
correct, yes.
Okay, so if the rate of crime due to the border existing or it being in the manner in which it is, right, would lead to lower outcomes, you think that's better? Like lower levels of crime? Because then you'd
Yeah.
be arguing for more immigration. Because a greater level of
What?
people coming from the immigrant population that has a lower rate of crime would mean that you lower the rate of crime in the United States.
No, I
So
just
you want a greater level of the population in the United States to, on average, commit a lower level of crime. Well, then you want
no, I'm not.
more people within that certain subset or population to have a lower rate of crime.
So again, my argument isn't about specifically immigration. It's about securing the border in terms of illegal crossings. Like I don't like.
Why?
I guess because there are studies that suggest that illegal people that cross illegally are more likely to commit crime.
Why don't you like focus on solving crimes in the United States? How
I
many
do
crimes
that
go
too.
unsolved
I
in the
do that
United States?
too. I do that
Okay,
too. But then
okay.
those are like
Or you could focus on that though, right? Rather than being like, oh, it's going to be
oh,
immigration that
I
causes
can
this rate
walk
of crime.
and chew
Because
gum at
if
the
we
same
look at
time.
the if we look at statistics, it indicates the other way around.
I can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can address crime within the United States as well as at the borders.
I'm sorry, what crime are you referencing?
The crime of illegally entering the United States.
So oh, okay, so people coming into the country through undocumented mechanisms. So are you saying that the current process of legal immigration in the country is a justified process?
You can. I'm not opposed to legal
Is
immigration.
it a justified process? Yes or no? Is it justified that it takes 5 to 7 years on average for people to get into the country? Is that a justified process?
I disagree with that.
So you disagree with the process. So then violating it would make sense. You think it's justified to violate it. If it's
No,
justified to violate it, why are you making it out to be such a big
no,
issue?
I can disagree with it, but I can still say you can disagree with it, but I can still say you can't violate it. Like those are two separate
Oh,
things. I
so
look.
then it is a justified law.
No, I personally do not think you should break the laws just because you disagree with them. But they're
Really? So like Okay, so like for example, if there's a law saying that specifically like premarital sex is illegal, right? Would
Whoa.
you say that you shouldn't break that law? Or would you be
Um,
like, I don't honestly don't care if someone has premarital sex as long as it's, consensual amongst two adults, things like that.
I don't care. I mean, I'm not quite sure. I think this is like far off the point, but no, I don't really. There's such a thing as civil disobedience. So I agree with you there, but like I don't know.
Or do you think it's justified in any circumstance to break the law?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, as long as you see it to be an unjustified law.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so then currently you would say that there are some justified sets of
I
conditions
don't think
that
I don't think
that
crossing the
breaking the
border.
law in the United States makes sense.
I don't think I can see where you're going with this argument, but I don't think crossing the border illegally, considering the studies that suggest the crime that occurs after that, um, is can be justified because you don't agree with the law.
Do you want to deport 5-year-olds that are in this country with their families
No, not
just for a
really.
better life?
No, not
Okay,
really.
well, if
No.
they're in the country undocumented, under your view, wouldn't you want to deport them?
Obviously, it's a sensitive and touchy subject. I don't want to see a 5-year-old deported, especially if the 5-year-old is rooted here. But like, if that's what the law says, then like, what do you want us to do? Like, if that's what the law is.
Yeah, I would say we'd change the law to make it a more
Okay,
justified set
yeah.
of
And if you
circumstances.
change the law, then I agree with the law. But as of now, I think my focus is the crime that occurs at the border. I mean, if you live in a border state, especially physically at the border, you understand that there is a lot
I
of.
live in California.
Okay, me too. And
Cool, cool. So like what am I supposed to understand now that I live in California?
no, I'm not saying you're supposed to understand something because
Yeah,
you're.
you said living in a border state, you come to understand something. I live in the same state as you. What have you come to learn that apparently I haven't come to learn
Sure,
about
yes.
undocumented
Sure, there's
immigration
a higher
that
rate of
should
crime.
change my view given that we live in a border state?
Sure, there's a higher rate of crime at the border because we border a different country. Like California is unique in that it
Source?
borders a different country. I mean, I can't like give you a source off my. You can Google it. I mean, I'm looking at
Are
this.
you saying that there's no city or area, district in the United States that is not on the border that has a higher rate of crime?
No, if you San Diego and I can't name the cities that are like
Is
San Diego and
overall higher related crime? Is that because of immigration?
I wouldn't say immigration. I think that is
Okay.
misleading. I would say like
All right, here, can I ask you this question? What's one policy that you would like different at the border that would make the conditions better off?
sure, more judges, expand immigration courts because the fact
Okay,
that
okay, you totally agree. What about more border agents?
I don't really care for border agents, but like sure, like
What about capping the amount of people that come to the country?
what? Sorry, repeat that.
What about capping the amount of people that can come to the country per
Capping?
day?
Like that gets tricky. Like capping, like if like let's like, if you focus on asylum seekers, like you're gonna cap the amount of people that are gonna come into the country because like it gets tricky. But these are all
Tommy,
legal.
you sound like a fucking liberal. You know, liberals have been advocating for the same policy that you're referencing.
Like I think
That we wanted more immigration judges. That's what the bipartisan border bill
no, I
had.
know. I think we're talking past each other. I think my focus is on illegal immigration, not legal immigration.
I understand, but people come through undocumented mechanisms because our legal processes fucking suck. Like, I think that's a pretty intuitive thing. Right? If it takes 5 to 7 years to go through the legal process and you need your family to be better off right now, what are you going to do?
Why isn't it logical to suggest that securing the border may reduce crime rates? Why isn't that a logical assertion or suggestion?
So, what do you mean by securing the border? What does that mean? Just because something would slightly reduce a crime rate doesn't mean it's a desirable action to engage in.
Well, no, I think generally, I think that's a truism that people in the United States don't like crime. So why would it be absurd to suggest that a policy
You know,
may
it also likely reduce crime.
what?
Not electing a criminal. Okay, but you did that, so
I mean, okay, I guess with that it gets tricky because like no individual is perfect. And like there's a number of policies you might support.
now it's no individual is perfect. Okay.
No, I mean, like, is that wrong? Is that a bad thing to say? I'm not going to support 100% of what
Are you
he does.
perfect?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to
Okay.
support
Have you
100%.
sexually assaulted a woman?
No.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to be perfect in order to
Well,
not sexually
also,
assault someone. Prescription. Have you tried to coup the country?
no, but
No. So you don't have to be perfect to not try to coup the country. Have you bragged about grabbing women by the vagina without asking?
no, I get what you're
No. So you don't
saying.
have to be a perfect person to do that.
I
So
understand.
have you bragged about walking into changing rooms of naked teenage girls because he quote unquote owns the place?
I
No,
understand.
you haven't done that. So you don't have to be perfect to not do any of
May I
those things.
respond?
Yeah, you may respond now.
I understand where you're coming from. I do, 100%. But there's only two choices. So you're giving there's like there's not much of a room. If we were in a multi-party system, like truly multi-party system, then I would understand 100% your argument. It makes sense. But there's only two choices, and candidates have multiple positions. Some people support some, and some people don't. So like it's kind of difficult to say, okay, well this person did this. You absolutely cannot support them. You have to vote 100% for this other person. It gets like it's difficult. Like I that's just the American political system.
Okay, what did Kamala Harris do that is so bad that exceeds what Donald Trump has done?
I don't think she did stuff that was. She's a vice president. They don't do shit. I don't know why. I don't. She's a
She
vice
was
president.
actually the most influential vice president ever, but you couldn't name a single thing a vice president has done in history. Name one. Name one
What
thing.
do you mean? I like literally
Name one thing a vice president has done in history.
Okay, you caught me off guard. I don't really pay attention to vice presidents because
I understand. That doesn't mean that she did nothing as a vice
No, I'm
president.
not saying she didn't do anything.
That just means that you're not aware of what she did.
No, she I had the most tie-breaking votes in the like Senate or House or whatever among any vice president. So like I'm not saying she hasn't done nothing. Like she's very engaged, but historically vice presidents.
It's within the Senate, but just letting you know.
Yeah, when the
Sabrina, thank you so much for the $25. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I started watching this summer, and I've learned so much. Keep doing what you do. I will follow you on any platform after TikTok. Hashtag Parker for President. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I appreciate it. Likely will be on YouTube if it does end up being taken down here. Nancy, thank you so much for the $20 for thank you for everything you are doing to educate your generation. Thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate that. Kiana, thank you so much for the $6 for meds and warm drinks. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So as I was saying, like historically vice presidents major role in federal government. They're basically a backup, an insurance policy. But like again, I'm not saying that to say Kamala Harris hasn't done anything. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, like, can you tell me specifically, like, what she did that was bad that means you wanted to vote for Donald Trump, the
No,
civilly
I'm not voting
liable
for Donald.
sexual abuser over her?
I didn't vote. I think this is where we're.
You didn't vote for Trump?
No, sorry. I think this is where we're talking past each other. I
Oh,
didn't.
did you or did you not vote for Trump?
I did, but I
Okay.
didn't vote for him because I dislike Kamala Harris.
Okay. So, but you disliked Trump, right?
No.
No, you don't dislike a civilly liable sexual abuser who tried to coup the country and bragged about grabbing women by the vagina,
No,
without
I'm not
asking,
voting.
and walking into changing rooms of naked teenage girls because they quote unquote own the place.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's not why I voted for him. I voted for him for policy.
No. You're just not listening. Do you think that's a good person?
No, I don't think that's a good person.
No.
Like,
Is that
I'm not
a
voting
bad?
for him.
Is that a bad person actually?
Sure, he's a bad
Yeah,
person
So if he's a bad person, you can't indicate Kamala Harris is a bad person. Why did you say that he was a better candidate than her?
because of his policies.
What policy?
Well, we just debated the border. So the border.
But what policy of his specifically on the border? You never gave a specific policy.
Well, The judge, I literally just said expanding judges, increasing the number of immigration
Yeah,
judges.
that's a Democratic provision, not a Republican.
I think it's bipartisan actually.
No, it's actually the only reason it's bipartisan is out of compromise.
Well, compromise means both sides want it. So
Except for Republicans actually blocked the bill because Daddy Trump said so.
I don't think he's Daddy Trump.
Brianna, thank you so much for the $10. Thank you so much for Park for President. Keep it up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Happy holidays.
I think initially the first reason why I started to support him was the First Step Act. I think that's what it was. Criminal justice reform. I'm not one of those people that I agree with everything this person does. If there's a policy or a few policies that I think are beneficial, then hey, I'm going
Rebecca, thank you for the fireworks. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
to cast
Sure,
my.
I understand, but like, what policy specifically? Like, which one did you like? 'Cause the amount of immigration judge increase that, if it was
Yeah.
bipartisan, wouldn't be a difference between the Republican side and the Democratic side, insofar as that you voted for Trump. So, can you tell me specifically what would be different amongst the two candidates that would mean that Donald Trump's policies were good? What policies?
I think criminal justice reform, specifically the First Step Act, and I'm thinking if
That was bipartisan. It was actually historically set up by Obama.
oh seriously,
Yes.
oh I didn't know that. Probably.
And Trump never influenced it that passed. You just signed it into law. But
I mean that means something, right? He signed into
Sure.
law.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't mean something. What I'm saying though is that it just doesn't actually like really make sense for us
Well,
to
okay,
only attribute it to him.
This is a weaker point, but I would say if we're talking foreign policy, especially because a lot of Americans right now are anxious, like Trump, I understand if you refute by saying he's not anti-war, but what he's purporting and what he's saying is we should end wars, especially proxy wars, specifically with Ukraine and Russia.
And that includes like flattening Iran.
No, I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with flattening
Is
Iran.
that pro-war?
That is pro-war, and I do not agree with
What
that.
about getting Bibi Netanyahu to not accept that ceasefire?
I do not
That's pretty
agree.
pro-war. What about an increase in military drone strikes in the Middle East, an assassination of a top military general in Iran, the vetoing of a blocking of an arms deal to Saudi Arabia, which they used to commit a genocide in Yemen, which killed 85,000 Yemeni children
No,
by
those are all
bombing and
bad.
starving them to death?
You're right. Those are all bad.
That's all pro-war.
You're right. Those are all bad, and I don't think it's an absolute. But I think any
And
effort,
leaving Ukraine gives Putin more power to continually engage in more war, right?
well, I mean, that's a hypothetical, but I agree.
It's not what happened with Georgia. Georgia got taken over. I appreciate the fireworks. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Then he annexed Crimea. He's invaded the rest of Ukraine. Where else is he going to go? Do you really expect him just to stop? Are you just going to be like Chamberlain and be
You
like, "Oh,
can't,
peace of our time," right? I got peace with Hitler, peace of our time, and then he just invades again.
No, I hear you, but I think it's like useless to speculate the motivations of Putin. Like, at what point
It's
do
not,
we
it's
like?
not useless. You have to do so. You have
Why?
to.
Why is the U.S. obligated to?
Why is the U.S. obligated to do that? Because
Why?
at the end of the day, Russia is trying to invade lands that were previously owned by the Soviet
But
Union,
why
and they're
is it our
taking away the
business? Why is it our
sovereignty of
business?
those areas.
But why is it our business to
Global
determine
stability.
whether or not an area deserves sovereignty? Like, as harsh as that sounds.
Okay, so like so what you're arguing is that Russia should be allowed to take as much land
No,
as they
that's
can
not what I'm
in those
arguing.
areas.
No,
So
my
should we
argument
pull out
is
of
very
NATO?
Sorry, I apologize.
Wait, why does NATO deserve sovereignty?
I apologize. My argument is not that Russia deserves or should or can. My argument is that it's none of our business, and we shouldn't be like dedicating, like, we shouldn't be.
Okay, so why are we in
revoking.
NATO? Why are
Huh?
we in NATO?
It's a historical military
It's
alliance.
none of our business.
No, it is our business because we were bombed by Japan. So it is our business. Like, we were brought into the war. So
And what happened with Russia?
but that's not Russia's not in NATO. So like
No, the
nor
reason
is
why
Ukraine.
exactly the reason why NATO exists is to stop Russian expansion. That is the main driving aspect of NATO, is to limit the ability of Russia to invade those countries. If you don't specifically think it's our business to be in this area, then why the hell are we in NATO?
So are
That's
you
a real
making?
question. And if you think that we should be in NATO, well, then tell me why specifically that only stops at this point. Why does that only stop with Ukraine? Right? I'm not saying with NATO. I'm saying with our agreements in terms of the Budapest Memorandum, because Ukraine's not a member of NATO.
Well, I guess my response would be like, I, I don't really have that much investment in like
Why do you have investment in the rest of Europe?
I don't. That's the
You
thing.
don't. So then leave NATO.
Yeah, but I would say that, but also like I don't know the repercussions of that. So like I'm not just gonna throw out an
Do you
argument.
know the repercussions of allowing for Russia to literally take Ukraine,
I don't.
literally take other places because you didn't want to do the speculation necessary within foreign policy?
I don't. But also I'm putting forth the like argument that why is it our business?
NATO. We are containing Russia. The whole reason NATO exists is to contain Russia. And you're telling me now you don't want to contain Russia?
No, I'm not saying I don't want to contain Russia. It's not like that's
So you do want to contain Russia. If you want to contain Russia, why are
no.
you giving them more power by allowing them to invade and take over Ukraine?
I guess like to be more specific, my argument is, or my honestly my critique, my comment is like, at what point does it end? Like, are we supposed to like endless?
Agreements we set up.
Okay, so let's set up some agreements.
We already had one. The Budapest Memorandum.
So what happened to it?
Rose, thank you so much for the fireworks. Thank you so much. That's why we're giving assistance to Ukraine. They gave up their nuclear weapons in exchange for us providing assistance to them, right? If it is the case that some type of event like this happens.
I think
Audrey, thank you so much for the $13. Thank you so much for everything you do. I'm so proud of you going to the West. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I think based off of this conversation, it appears that I disagree with like coming to the table and like peace. That's not the case. Like I agree with like we can definitely go to the table and like assist and aid in peace deals, but I don't think that's like why is that a bad thing if Trump wants to do that? Like why is that a bad thing?
Sure. Like what? Of course, I think all of us want peace. Right now, I think our argument is does that really create long-term stable peace within the region? Given Russia's history, given what Russia's continually done, does that actually create peace within the region,
I think
or
it's
does
like,
it give them a greater ability to lock, reload, and reinvade?
I think it's honestly I think it's a fool's errand to predict that. Like we like I don't think you can really know. Like
Essentially, what you're arguing is that you just don't want to hold a position on foreign politics because you don't know how to speculate that. And I think that's a
no.
totally legitimate response, but that's not a reason to hold the foreign policy position, right, of Trump that we should just give the land to Russia, right?
I mean, is that
because that particular foreign policy decision also relies on speculation.
I don't know if that's
Speculation that this will yield peace. That's the speculation you're engaging in. So if you're willing to engage in speculation to uphold Donald Trump's position, why is it such an issue when we utilize speculation specifically to establish other types of positions? Because ultimately speaking, when you say speculation, you just mean you're not certain, which that's true about every single claim that we believe in, other than the fact that you think. Right? You're certain, right, of the fact that you think, right? But you're not certain of the external world. And someone could sit here and be like, oh, I don't want to engage in speculation and in believing it to be true that the external world is real, right? And how would you respond to that?
I think it's less so.
You have to, like, in order to be able to engage with reality,
Well,
in
I
order
think
to
it's
be able
less
to
so
believe
about
things to be true, in order to do things that are useful, you have got to engage in some level of speculatory
Of course,
faculties if you use it that way.
Of course,
If that's how you're using speculation.
No, of course, but I think you should do it like cautiously, like also considering the fact that I could be wrong, but I don't think Trump just said we should give parts of Ukraine to Russia. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's what he said. I think
How else do you come to peace with Russia right now?
also like peace deals aren't perfect, dude. Like like compromise isn't perfect. Like go to a negotiation table and tell me like at one point in history where it was perfect.
And I would love if you guys actually applied that argument to things like the bipartisan border bill. That would be great.
Well, I think that should have passed. So I do agree with you.
Well, then you don't. Then do you blame Trump for the conditions at the border that exist?
I think he was using a proxy uh, bully pulpit because he wasn't actually the president, and he sunk the bill. So I don't agree with that.
Yeah. So do you blame him for the conditions at the border?
No, I think that the conditions at the border are a conglomerate of many different administrations.
But you just said he was the one who shot down the bill.
That's one aspect of why it's still in the condition it is. It's not an
I
absolute.
think that is like the main thing. The bill was the largest border bill in like the past 20 to 30 years. I think that's the main reason.
I mean, you can.
And that was a year and a half ago. We can wait for a
well,
year and a
issues at
half.
the border-
Had
issues at the border
good border
predate-
legislation, right?
Issues at the
Feel
border, I
uncompromised.
promise you, predated that border bill, like by far. So
No, really. But you had the ability to get it done, and you didn't choose to do so.
yeah, I disagree with that.
And you now know what's going to happen. Democrats will not come to the table. They won't.
I think
They're not
they
going to
will.
do it.
I think they will.
No, I actually genuinely don't think you're going to get a border bill like that again. You're going
Wow,
to get way
yeah.
less concessions. I promise you.
Well, what would make you believe that?
What makes me believe that you're
Yeah.
going to get less? Yeah, because it is the case that you guys don't have as much within Congress as you think.
Okay,
Right.
I come from the belief. I don't believe Democrats just act. The majority of Democratic legislators, I don't think they act in bad faith. So I don't think they're sitting there saying we're going to intentionally.
No, I'm not saying they act in bad faith. What I'm just saying is that the problem is now Trump's, right? The problem is now not the Democrats, right? So the Democrats aren't willing to give up as much
No,
in
it is the Democrats'
compromise
problem.
in order to be able to get it done.
No, it is the Democrats' problem. It's Congress. It's House, Senate.
I'm just telling you how it works, right? That's exactly why it is the
telling
case.
you how it works. Congress is composed of two parties.
Really?
Like, it's not just the Republicans. Like, Congress is one. It's the House and the Senate. It's not the Republicans and the Democrats. It's the House and the Senate. So every single legislator has a responsibility to the constituents, which is the United States of America. So it's everyone's responsibility ultimately, if you really want to argue that. Like, they're not, like, Democrats aren't off the hook because Trump is now president.
I never said that they're off the hook in terms of the responsibility I place on them. I'm just describing what their behavior is going to be, right? And in the reality of the matter
That's not fair.
is
Why
that
don't you have
there's
more
no-
faith in your party? That's not fair.
What? You think I don't have critiques of the Democratic Party?
No, I said, why don't you have more faith? I mean, you can have critiques, sure, but like, it just sounds like you don't have faith in them, like, coming to the table and negotiating.
Yeah, when it comes to things they don't agree on, yeah, they were willing to give up things because they wanted to get it done. That's how compromise works. Now they're not going to get as much by compromising. Okay, so why would they compromise on those things?
This is also why I do not like omnibus bills and fat bills. I single bills that focus on one single issue, I think, is more efficient. But
Sure.
that's, like,
Say
another
what
argument.
you want. Say what you want. Again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to say that Trump caused the border bill to be undermined, but then he's
Yes.
not at fault for the conditions that exist.
No,
But
that
he was the determining factor of why it didn't
that
pass. It would have passed
necessarily
otherwise.
makes him at fault.
It does because it would have passed otherwise.
Yeah, so I think we're talking.
Here's my question: if he didn't do that, would it have passed?
Probably, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know why, like, there's contention here. Like, I supported that bill, so I don't know why there's contention here.
So then, if it would have passed, if not Trump, then couldn't you say that he was a major driving cause to why the conditions of the border stayed the way they were?
My argument against that would be, like, that bill isn't the single and only solution to the border. Like, the border is, like, there are, like, again, like, there's a wide range of factors and agencies and institutions.
What stops you from passing broader legislation in the future?
I don't know. Like what?
Exactly. If you get it passed then you could have done more expansive policy in the future, right?
Okay. I'm gonna make a straightforward statement because these comments are low-key flaming me. I disagree with him sinking that bill. Now, the comments that he's made, the official policy positions that he's put forward, I agree with. It's like a scale. It's not an absolute, it's not perfect. It's a scale, and I'm weighing the scale, and I'm willing to bet that more likely than not, the policies he'll put forward, including the specific ones I mentioned, are going to benefit the American people, specifically those at the border.
You didn't even tell me a specific what
I
specific
just
policy.
said
All you said was immigration judges. That's it.
is that not a policy? Like,
That's
is that not fair?
literally. I just want to know that's literally a democratic provision. To
Okay,
make the
but can it
asylum
not also
process
be
to
like
make the
Trump's?
asylum process go faster is a democratic position because Trump is advocating for remain in Mexico, which didn't affect many people, but he's trying to argue that you wouldn't even go through the asylum process in the United States.
Uh-huh.
Right? So they weren't even arguing for like the system to go faster. They
Wait,
were just arguing for the system to go through Mexico.
wait, can I ask you a question? Do you have a problem with remain in Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem?
Yeah, so my problem with remaining in Mexico is that Mexico doesn't want to engage with that, and it hurts our relations with them, particularly when it comes to actually getting conditions for border security done. When it comes to remain in Mexico, it doesn't address the issue of the asylum process, is that it takes so long for people to get into the country, and that we aren't able to validly process the asylum claims fast enough because we don't have the amount of immigration judges. So I think immigration judges, I think that other processes as outside of that are going to be better to address. And it didn't even
Mhm.
impact that many people. Secondly, if it were so impactful, it were so effective, why
Mhm.
did Trump wait till 2019 to implement it? It was an executive order.
I
He
don't
could have
know.
done it day one.
I don't know why he didn't. I don't know why he waited. I'm not going to pretend to know why he waited, but I, I, I don't see a harm. Again, my focus here is like the benefit of the United States. I don't see a harm in remain in Mexico in terms of like once you pass the process, you can come into the United States. Like, why is that like a bad thing
What
to?
if you're seeking asylum from Mexico?
Well, yeah, I mean it's nuanced. Like, sure, like that's
So are
strictly
you going to remain in Mexico when seeking asylum from Mexico?
okay. Well, that also requires like collaboration between the United States and Mexico. Like,
No, I'm just asking, like, how are you going to engage in that process?
I
Should they remain in Mexico?
you're asking me to consider, like, I don't. This is gonna come across
Yeah,
harsh. You're asking me to
I'm sure
consider the
I'm
ills of
asking
like,
you to consider critical thought.
okay, you. What I think you're asking me, what I interpret it as, is you're asking me to consider the ails of the Mexican government and its citizens. And like I'm not opposed to that, but I just don't think it should come at the cost of the United States.
I don't see how having the process go through the United States, but through faster means through asylum, is somehow going to hurt the United States. What's the issue with having a fast asylum process that goes through the United States where people who are seeking asylum to the United States can stay in this country and they have fast asylum claims where it goes fast through the immigration process and then we're able to determine who's not on a valid asylum claim and we're
Mm.
able to establish those conditions a lot better, right? Like
Yeah,
that makes so much more sense to me. That seems more humane to me. That seems like a
yeah.
better process to me. And I feel like Remain in Mexico doesn't address that process. And instead of not addressing that process, it creates conditions in which would be bad for people, especially who are fleeing conditions and which also could be affecting them
Mhm.
in the context of Mexico or throughout the entire world. It doesn't incentivize humane treatment of people. It incentivizes
I
dehumanization,
agree
I
with
think.
humane treatment. I don't agree with like treating people inhumanely, and I think
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying the process of it is not really a humanizing process.
okay. So I haven't read the specifics of the Remain in Mexico policy, but what I would want to see in it would be a more nuanced policy that considers um, applicants who perhaps have a risky background or like a history of crime that they remain in Mexico. Perhaps those that don't, then maybe yes, they can enter the United States. I don't see what's wrong with that. Like, what's wrong with that?
So again, if it is the case that you specifically just want people to stay in Mexico. That's your policy, right? Again, the question is begged. If someone is seeking asylum from
Mhm.
Mexico, what do? Do they just stay in Mexico?
Um, I guess this also like context matters here. Like, I feel like most asylum seekers aren't from the country of Mexico. Like most come
I'm
from.
not saying they are.
I understand that. I think,
I'm
but
just saying in that circumstance.
I guess it depends. Like, you might not like that answer, unfortunately, but I guess it depends. Like, it just depends.
Depends on what they're seeking asylum from Mexico, and you're saying they should stay in the country that they're seeking asylum from.
I guess it's
Can you
also
please make that make sense to me? Because that's not what the asylum process is. What is the asylum process?
if, as far as I know, if you are in imminent danger, your life, your safety, then we will grant you temporary access into the country. So that's my understanding of the asylum process.
Okay, so if you're at risk and you're not safe in that particular area, why would you tell them to stay in that area?
I mean, it's law. Like it's complicated. Like it's not straight. It's not black and white. It's like New York law is black and white. If you want to like discuss law, you can talk about New York law, black and white. But like the border of California and Mexico is not black and white law, especially when it comes to asylum.
Okay. Tommy, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or add?
Not really.
All right. Let's go on to the next person. Only send a guest request if you did vote Trump. We are just looking for some debates. Let's get this next person up here real quick.